My name is Claire Harrington, and this is the day I realized I was nothing more than a formality to my own family. I arrived at my sister Sophie's wedding in the only dress I owned that felt worthy, a wine-colored gown that hugged my frame, making me believe, just for a moment, that I could belong. The venue was a bridal magazine dream, a lakeside resort in Vermont, gardens manicured to perfection, chandeliers gleaming like a palace. It was Sophie's day, and I was prepared to smile, stay quiet, applaud when expected. I didn't want attention. I just wanted to matter. But the moment I stepped out of my car, the air shifted. The staff member at the gate opened my door with a nod, his politeness crisp as his uniform. I thanked him, smoothed my dress, and walked toward the entrance, clutching my invitation like a ticket to a world already slipping away. Inside, a receptionist greeted me with a polished smile. "Your name, please?" "Claire Harrington," I said. Her smile flickered. Her fingers skimmed the guest list, flipping too fast. She paused, face tightening. "Ah, yes. You're seated in the hallway area." I blinked. "I'm sorry, the what?" "Just outside the banquet hall, near the coat check." The words landed like a quiet slap. A hallway seat. Literally in the hallway. I turned to the seating chart, scanning the gold script. There it was, Claire Harrington, Table H, hallway. My parents, Linda and Richard, sat at the head table. Sophie's friends, her fiancé's colleagues, strangers I'd never met, were inside under warm lights and peonies. And me? By the coats. A mistake, maybe. A last-minute shuffle. I wanted to believe that, but I knew better. I checked the chart again, hoping I'd misread. No. My name stared back. The hallway. My jaw tightened. My chest burned. Not with tears, but with a rage that simmered low and steady. This wasn't an accident. It was a message. I walked into the main hall, past clinking champagne flutes and Sophie's curated perfection. My mother was adjusting Sophie's veil, laughing like she hadn't just pushed her eldest daughter to the margins. I stood there, invisible but awake, truly awake for the first time in years. I wasn't staying silent this time. I straightened my shoulders, refusing to shrink as I crossed the room. Sophie stood like a centerpiece, her gown flowing like a waterfall, her makeup flawless. My mother, Linda, hovered behind her, beaming, fussing over the veil as if it were a crown. The sight twisted something inside me, not jealousy, but clarity. I approached, steps deliberate, cutting through floral perfume and forced laughter. My hands shook, but my voice stayed even. "Mom," I said, "can I talk to you?" She barely looked up. "Not now, Claire. We're in the middle of things." "Just a minute," I said, sharper. She sighed, stepping aside like humoring a child. Sophie stayed put, not turning, but I felt her eyes, smirking. "I've been seated in the hallway," I said, low but firm. "Is that a mistake?" Linda shrugged. "We had to prioritize close family." I stared. "I am close family." She laughed, cold and dismissive. "Oh, don't make this a thing, Claire." Sophie chimed in, voice dripping with syrup. "It's probably a mix-up. Weddings are hectic. No one meant anything by it." Her eyes said otherwise. She was savoring this. I turned to my mother. "This isn't about a seat. It's about being pushed out. Again." Linda's smile hardened. "Claire, don't ruin your sister's day. You should be grateful you were invited at all." Grateful. The word hit harder than any insult. Grateful to be treated like a stranger? Grateful to be tolerated? Before I could answer, my father appeared, Richard, always the peacemaker when tension flared. "It's just a seat, sweetheart," he said, avoiding my gaze. "Don't make waves." My fists clenched. I wasn't dramatic. I was erased. I looked at them, my mother, my sister, my father, and saw the truth. They didn't see me. Maybe they never had. "I won't make a scene," I said, voice barely a whisper. "But I'm done pretending this doesn't hurt." Sophie tilted her head. "You still wore the dress. Still showed up. Still chasing approval, huh?" Her words cut, but I smiled, not with warmth, but certainty. No, Sophie, I said. What's sad is you still need to push others down to feel loved. That silenced her. I turned and walked away, not broken but finished. Done begging for affection. Done ignoring the truth. The hallway seat wasn't a mistake. It was their choice. And they were about to learn mine. I stepped into the hallway, the doors closing with a thud. My heart pounded like a drum, each beat louder than the violins inside. I didn't know what came next. Scream, leave, disappear? The air felt sharp, electric, like I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross. I sank onto a bench by the coat rack, heels tapping once, then still. In my hands was the name card, Claire Harrington, Table H, hallway. I turned it over, half expecting an apology. Nothing. Just gold ink and indifference. My reflection flickered in the glass behind me. Same eyes, same posture. But something had shifted. I wasn't just hurt. I was awake. The years of excuses, the apologies I'd made for them, the silence I'd swallowed, it unraveled here. I wasn't invisible. I never had been. A memory hit, sharp and unbidden. 3 years ago. Thanksgiving. Sophie was in Portugal with a fleeting boyfriend, leaving our Albany house quieter. Mom had asked me to find photos for a family album for Sophie's future wedding. Of course. She'd been humming Bridge Over Troubled Water, stirring her famous beef stew, the scent of bay leaf and Worcestershire hanging like comfort. Check your old room, she'd said, like it was still mine. I climbed the stairs, passing Sophie's framed milestones, ballet recitals, graduation, her first dog. My room was unchanged. The quilt smelled faintly of lavender and old books, the desk drawer creaking as always. I'd stood there once, holding a Dean's List letter, waiting for a call that never came. I framed it anyway, hung it above my desk. No one noticed. But I kept going. That wasn't the only erasure. At 17, I'd earned a partial scholarship to Boston College. Sophie found out, told Mom it was a distraction from family, and Mom convinced me to defer a year. The offer vanished. At 22, my first serious boyfriend asked me to dinner with his parents. Sophie whispered to him I was unstable. He ghosted me by week's end. 2 Thanksgivings ago, I wanted to bring a friend to dinner. Sophie told Mom it'd embarrass her, so Mom asked me to come alone. Every step, Sophie carved me out, her smile sweet as poison.
I found the photo box that day.
But something else caught my eye, a leather notebook on Mom's vanity, soft and worn. I shouldn't have opened it, but I did. The first page read like a love letter. When Sophie started kindergarten, she didn't cry. She waved and marched off like a little soldier. I turned the pages. Sophie loves my ZD on Thursdays. Sophie was scared of thunder. Now she sleeps through storms. Sophie's favorite gift was the nurse outfit at 8. Every line, every moment.
Sophie.
I searched for my name. Anything. Nothing. When Mom found me, notebook open, I asked, voice thin, "You wrote all this about Sophie?" She was unperturbed. I had to remember everything for her. She's sensitive. She was so sick as a child, Claire. You wouldn't understand. And me? I whispered. She smiled lightly. You've always been strong. You didn't need me to write you down. No anger then. Just a fracture, like a vase cracking in an empty room. Now, in the hallway, with laughter muffled behind the doors, I understood. I hadn't been forgotten by accident. I'd been carved out on purpose. I let the memory hurt, but it didn't define me. I tucked it away, choosing to see myself strong, not invisible. Footsteps broke my thoughts. Claire. Daniel Whitmore, Sophie's groom, stood before me, tie loosened, champagne flute dangling. His eyes were sharp, searching. I saw you leave, he said, voice low. I stood, brushing my dress. Don't worry. I didn't storm off. Just found my place. His lips twitched, not quite a smile. Sophie said the hallway thing was a mix-up. That you were overreacting. I raised an eyebrow. Of course she did. His gaze held mine, searching. Can I ask you something personal? I nodded, cautious. Go ahead. He exhaled. stepping off a ledge. Has Sophie ever said anything off about me? Like I'm predictable, easy to control. The question didn't surprise me, just that he'd asked. Like, he rushed on. Has she made you feel she's acting? Playing a part? The hallway narrowed. You're asking if I've seen the real Sophie, I said slowly. Or the one she shows you. He nodded.
Yeah.
Lately, she's different.
Distant.
She doesn't want me talking to certain people. Watches everything. I thought it was wedding stress, but now. I folded my arms, heart pounding, not fear, but possibility. Someone else saw it. There's a Sophie who performs, I said. And there's one who sees people as pieces to move, or obstacles to remove. He looked like I'd stolen his air. I thought I was paranoid, he muttered. You're not, I said flatly. Another voice cut through, cool, measured, like a blade in silk. And if you're still unsure, perhaps your mother can clarify. Margaret Whitmore, Daniel's mother, stood at the hallway's end, regal in navy, silver hair pulled tight. She held herself with quiet power. In her hand was a phone. She approached and handed it to Daniel. Read.
He did.
His face shifted, confusion, disbelief, devastation. She said she was training me, he whispered, that I was predictable, that the house, the assets, everything would be hers. He looked up, breath shallow. Margaret's voice was steady. That's only the start. She forged a prenup, signed it in your name. And there's an email to her lawyer about buying your family home with a hidden account. The air fractured. This wedding was unraveling. I didn't gloat. I let Daniel see the truth. Standing firm felt like reclaiming my voice. Back in the banquet hall, the mood had shifted to toasts. Sophie stood at the head table, radiant, raising a glass for her speech. Her voice carried, honeyed and rehearsed, thanking guests, praising Daniel, painting a fairy tale. The crowd leaned in, enchanted. Margaret moved first. She stepped toward the stage, phone in hand, her navy dress catching the light. The room stilled, sensing a shift. Before we celebrate, Margaret said, voice clear, cutting through Sophie's pause, I suggest anyone who believes in fairy tales read this. She held up her phone, screen glowing with Sophie's texts. He's easy to train. 6 months, it's all mine. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Sophie's smile froze. Margaret didn't stop. And this, she said, swiping to an email from Sophie's lawyer. Prenup secured under his name. Funds transferred to your account for the Whitmore estate. Gasps broke the silence. Glasses clinked as guests shifted, stunned. Sophie's voice cracked. That's not, it's a lie. But the crowd's eyes were on Margaret, then Daniel, who stood at the stage's edge, face pale but resolute. This isn't love, he said, loud enough for all to hear. It never was. The room held its breath. Sophie's glass trembled, then fell, shattering on the floor. I stood at the back, unseen but steady, watching her story collapse under the weight of her own lies. We moved to a private conference room upstairs, the chandelier humming faintly, shadows warping on the table. Daniel sat at the head, knuckles white. Margaret stood behind him, hand light on his shoulder. I sat to his right, heart drumming with certainty. This wasn't just a wedding. It was a reckoning. The door opened. Sophie entered, gown trailing like shattered glass, radiant yet brittle. Her chin lifted, but her eyes darted, wary. She wasn't in control, and she knew it. Linda followed, heels clicking, face confused, like she'd been called to fix something she didn't grasp. What's this about? Sophie asked, voice high. Trying to humiliate me after that stunt? Daniel stood slowly. He placed a white envelope on the table like a gavel. Do you know what this is? He asked quietly. Sophie's eyes narrowed.
What?
Another trick. It's a petition to annul our marriage, he said. I signed it. Silence crashed over us. Linda gasped. Daniel, you can't. No, Margaret interrupted, voice steel. He's not rash. We've seen the messages. The forged prenup. The lawyer's email. We know who you are. Sophie's smile fractured. Daniel's voice shook but held. You said I was easy. That you'd own my home, my money. You planned to take everything. They were jokes. Sophie snapped. You're twisting it. Margaret stepped closer. And the account you opened to buy his family's estate? The divorce consultation last month? Were those jokes? Sophie froze. Richard stepped in, looking at Sophie, then me, not turning away. Is it true? He asked her. She didn't answer. He turned to Linda. Did you know? Linda's voice was faint. I didn't want to believe it. You never do, he said flat. Then he looked at me. I'm sorry, Claire. I stiffened. I should have seen it, he continued. How we pushed you aside. How we let Sophie's story erase yours. Linda's face crumpled. You're choosing her side? Sophie hissed, pointing at me. Over your daughter? I am your daughter, I said softly. You just never saw me. Sophie's voice wavered. You've always been jealous. Always trying to ruin me. I stood, facing her, calm in the storm. I don't need to ruin you, Sophie. You did that yourself. I paused, voice steady, cutting through her silence. I spent years apologizing just to be allowed in the room. But now I see, the room was never worth it. She had no reply. The truth spoke louder than she ever could. I faced Sophie without anger, speaking from strength. It wasn't about winning, it was standing whole. No one stopped her. Sophie pushed through the doors, veil fluttering like a torn flag. She headed for the garden, where fairy lights twinkled against dusk. We followed, not to chase, but to witness. Daniel walked ahead, Margaret at his side. My parents trailed, silent, stunned. I stayed close, not to intervene, but to see it through. The garden was quiet, music a distant hum. Sophie stood by a fountain, gown catching light, breath uneven. You think you can ruin me? She said, voice low, to Daniel. He stepped forward, unyielding. No one ruined you, Sophie. You chose this. She spun to me, eyes blazing. This is your fault. You've always hated me. I didn't hate you, I said, steady. I just wanted to be seen. But I don't need that from you anymore. Her lips quivered, but Daniel delivered the final blow. He held up the annulment papers. I signed these tonight, he said, loud enough for us, soft enough to keep private. This isn't love. It never was. Margaret touched his arm. Let's go. As they turned, Sophie stood alone, by her fountain, under her lights, in a dress that once made her untouchable. Now it was a costume she couldn't shed. She opened her mouth, but nothing came. The stage wasn't hers. Before leaving, I walked to the head table, where Linda's purse sat open. Inside was her wallet, a photo peeking out, Sophie, always Sophie, in every frame. I pulled it out, held it up for her to see. You chose your favorite child in every picture, I said, voice calm but clear. But this is the last one I let define me. I set the photo down, then placed my name card, table H, hallway beside it, right in the center of their perfect table. Then I walked out, head high, leaving their world behind. A week later, no chandeliers, no roses, no violins. Just the hum of my Boston apartment's fridge and the creak of floorboards. Peace had a sound, quiet, steady mine. I sat on my bed, coffee warming my hands, morning light filtering through blinds like hope. It was the first Saturday in months without family obligations, without forced smiles. My phone buzzed. The 10th call this week. I let it ring. Her script was predictable, awkward apologies, dodging truth. I didn't mean to hurt you, Claire. You're just different. I didn't want different. I wanted honesty. The voicemail pinged. I didn't play it. That afternoon, pouring coffee, I got a text from Joan, my coworker at the library. Heard it was rough. Coffee tomorrow? My treat. I smiled, typing sure. Thanks. The world wasn't empty. Not entirely. By my kitchen window, I watched leaves drift down, golden and slow. My phone buzzed, Linda. I know you're angry. I can't change the past.
But dinner?
Just us. Just us. The old me would have said yes, hoped for, I'm proud of you, or I missed you. But that girl was gone. I didn't reply, not to punish her, but because any reply would come from hope I'd outgrown. She might never say, "I'm sorry," the way I needed, but I hoped she would, one day. Quietly, gently, I let go. That evening, I walked along the Charles River, lanterns glowing, water shimmering under a fading sky. A busker played Simon and Garfunkel's Bridge Over Troubled Water. Mom's voice echoed, humming it over stew, kitchen warm with promise. Now it was a song I'd outgrown. I sat on a stone bench, pulling the old Christmas photo from my wallet, me, 16, half hidden behind the tree. Sophie in red, beaming. Mom proud. Dad distant. I'd carried it for years, like proof. My phone buzzed. Dad. Richard Harrington. I answered, not out of hope, but because he rarely called. His voice was rough. "Claire, I'm not good with words." I waited. That day when you spoke, and your mother saw Sophie clearly, I think she realized how alone you've been. A pause. Whether you forgive us or not, I just needed to say, I was wrong. I closed my eyes. No tears.
Just calm. "Thank you, Dad," I said.
But I don't need apologies now. A long silence. I just need to move forward. I hung up, staring at the photo. That girl in the corner, she was strong. She'd survived, watching, learning. Now she was stepping into her light. I folded the photo, tucked it away. Not erased. Redefined. Back home, I opened the storage cabinet above my bookshelf. There was the family album, leather-bound, Mom's pride every Christmas. I flipped it open. One photo caught me, Sophie with her ballet trophy, age 10. Mom's handwriting, Sophie's first win. I wasn't in it. Not even the background. I didn't tear it up. I closed the book, placed it in a cardboard box, wrote before on the lid, and slid it to the top of my wardrobe. Out of sight, out of reach. Not destroyed.
Just done.
The next morning, I woke before dawn. The city was still, waiting for me. I opened my laptop, searching for something I'd always wanted. Bar Harbor, Maine. October. Solo retreat cabin. Ocean view. I booked the longest stay they offered. Before confirming, I emailed Professor Lyman, my urban planning mentor. I told her I was ready, not just to pick up the community garden project, but to lead it. To build something that outlived my pain. I hit send, heart steady. I wasn't escaping, I was building. The confirmation arrived, and something settled. For years, I'd shaped my life around family dinners, holidays, obligations disguised as tradition. I'd missed promotions, canceled trips, silenced myself for their approval. Not anymore. I chose me. By my window with green tea, I watched trees sway, leaves falling like reminders that letting go isn't anger, it's peace. My phone buzzed, Mom again. I watched the screen light up, then fade. No reply. Not bitterness. I didn't need her voice to feel whole. I'd found something stronger. My own worth. In Bar Harbor, the ocean stretched wide, gray and endless under October sky. I unpacked slowly, books on the shelf, sweater on the chair. I pulled the old Christmas photo from my wallet, me, half hidden. I looked at it, then swapped it for a new one. Me in a red scarf, standing tall by the Charles River. No one cropped me out. No one edited my story. This was the first page I wrote myself. I set the photo on the table, light catching it just right. This was my story now. 3 months later, I stood at a community conference in Boston, microphone in hand, addressing a crowd about our urban garden project. The website I'd launched, Green Spaces Reborn, glowed on the screen behind me, its homepage showing me smiling, red scarf bright, no one blocking the frame. Joan sat in the front row, clapping louder than anyone. After, she pulled me aside. "What changed, Claire?" I smiled, simple and sure. I stopped waiting to be welcomed. I built the door myself. That was the beginning of everything. Looking back, that wedding wasn't just a breaking point, it was a turning point. I learned lessons I wish I'd known sooner, but they're mine now, hard-earned. Maybe they'll resonate with you. You don't need everyone's love to thrive. I chased my family's approval, thinking it'd make me whole. But love starts with knowing your value. If someone can't see you, it's their blindness, not your fault.
Small choices build big change.
Saying no to mom's text, booking that cabin, emailing my mentor, none were loud, but each was freedom. Life shifts in quiet moments when you choose yourself. Forgiveness is yours to give, not theirs to demand. Dad's apology meant something, but I didn't owe absolution. Forgiveness comes when your heart's ready. Until then, peace is enough. A family isn't just blood, it's who stays. Joan's text, the waiter's kind words, they showed me connection finds you when you stop chasing. The people who see you, who lift you without strings, those are your people. Your story belongs to you. That album, that Christmas picture, it was their version of me, not the truth. You write your own pages, no matter who tries to edit you out. I'm still learning, still growing. But I know this. You don't need a seat at their table to belong. You build your own. And when you do, it's yours forever. If you've ever felt like a guest in your own family, this story was for you. You're not invisible. You're not forgotten. You still have time to write the chapters no one else believed in. And when you do, let them be yours entirely.